points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show with Dave Minuk, with Ezra Ginsburg. I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to talk about a desperate Ottawa Senators team getting a much-needed victory to move up to 28th in the NHL standings tonight. They just put everything on the line. They knew that they needed this game. They needed this 2 points. They couldn't afford to drop any further behind the New Jersey Devils, and the Senators poured their hearts and souls out onto the ice surface, heroically defeating the Winnipeg Jets by a 5-2 margin. Gentlemen, good to see you both.
Too soon, Drew.
Thursday night. Not too soon at all. This was an absolute dog of a hockey game, and I actually I feel bad about using that term because
you're a dog lover.
I have a dog. She's a great dog. Nothing about this game was a dog at all. It was just an absolutely horrendous effort from an allegedly desperate Winnipeg Jets team, and another nail in the coffin of the Jets in their thin and getting thinner hopes for a playoff berth. Good to see you both on this Thursday night, guys.
Yeah, what's going on, boys? Yeah, like if the Jets end up missing the playoffs, it's gonna say on their tombstone that the Jets got up for good teams, and you know they were defeated. The 2021-22 season I'm talking about. It'll say that this team just couldn't beat teams that were way below them in the standings, and the Jets aren't by any means high up in the standings, but as you said, Drew, the Senators are a bottom 5 team, and they played with the desperation and they played with the urgency that you wanted to see from the Jets, right? And this game was obviously tied for the majority of the game, and entering the third period, that game is there, and Dallas beats Carolina in the shootout. We'll get into that, get into some of the out of town scores later, but I mean, it was all Scott Wedgwood, as you like to call him, Scott Wedgewald, Drew. So Dallas really, didn't even deserve to get a point in that game, except for maybe Wedgwood deserved the point. So, Dallas obviously was going to remain at least 3 points up on the Jets, right? So the Jets had an opportunity to at least keep pace, but it's just inexcusable, guys. Like, the Senators had scored 1 goal or less in 3 of their last 4 games. They mentioned that on the broadcast on TSN, right? So we know that this Ottawa Senators team, if you put a couple goals past Forsberg in the first period, you're most likely going to win this game. And it's really, baffling that the Jets put out that kind of effort. And, I was thinking about this afternoon when I was, thinking about the game and how we were going to do the post-game show. And I'm thinking, I didn't do the post-game show after the Jets Golden Knights game, but we all know the Jets were lucky to win that game. And Hellebuyck goalied Vegas. And even though Vegas has, 7 or 8 regulars out of the lineup, I was thinking, the Jets know that they were lucky to win that game. They know that, Hellebuyck deserved, as Dave M tweeted, the first, second, and third stars. So I was really expecting the Jets to hammer the Senators. Like, I was predicting a 5-1 or a 6-1 game here. And you just didn't see enough offense here.
Another Ginsburg guarantee gone wrong.
I mean, let's be honest. Like, we'll hear it here in the chat, but how many people expected this type of result, right? Like, you're coming into this game, you've won a couple of games, you beat Chicago, you beat Vegas. You've got Columbus coming in. They're obviously playing, a little bit better. You've got Laine coming back, but this was a game that I think every single Jets fan and single hockey observer thought, the Jets were going to win this one.
Well, it's the arrogance of the team, and it's the arrogance of the organization, Dave M. And we've talked about it on numerous occasions throughout the course of this season. They play down to their opponent. And I understand where your logic is coming from. You steal a win on Tuesday against Vegas because you only played well for, the last, the first 25 minutes of the game on Tuesday were horrendously awful. And the only reason that you ever took a 1-0 lead is thanks to your goalie, Connor Hellebuyck. So yes, should that refocus you? Absolutely. I can see why you would, connect those dots. But this Jets team, the arrogance, it permeates them so deeply that they think that they can just go out there and lollygag their way through another game. And look, this Ottawa Senators team isn't very good, but they're young, and if you give them life, they're gonna take it. They have some pride.
And they have enough good, young, talented. Like, look at Brady Tkachuk. What does he have? 22 goals?
Brady Tkachuk,
21 or 22 goals. Timmy Stützle is going to score 40 goals one day. Josh Norris has 26 goals. So you're right, Drew. I mean, the Senators can't match the Jets in terms of talent, but they have enough good players. If you give them, an inch or two, they're going to take advantage, and that's what they did.
Absolutely, Dave. That's exactly what they did. And yet the Jets, I think you tweeted it, after 40 minutes, it's 1-1. Mm-hmm. You need to win the third. That's right. Desperately need to win the third. And that's the effort you come out with. It was reminiscent of the first period against Vegas on Tuesday night. Just horrendous.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you start that game off by not having a shot through the first 5 minutes of the game again. I mean, how many times have we seen this? I mean, it's ironically, it's been a recipe for success, but it's not really. And as Ezzy just said, and he's right, that game against Vegas or Henderson, as you put it, Drew, on the postgame show, I mean, it wasn't a great game. You didn't have a shot for 13 minutes. I guess maybe the hollow victory is that it only took you 5 minutes to get your first shot in this one. And the passing again. I mean, you want to talk about defense. Mm-hmm. The Jets are just not crisp. They really aren't. They couldn't make a pass if their life depended on it. You know what? Here's a crazy notion. Stop taking off your fucking practices. Like maybe actually practice. Like, I don't understand. Your schedule isn't hard. Like, I know that you're playing a lot of games through a 3 and a 4. Like, maybe you guys need to practice because your passing is abysmal. And honestly, it's AHL level. It's AHL quality right now. And I watch a lot of AHL hockey, right? So I think I know what I'm talking about. And you watch these guys, and they kill their momentum. How many passes are in the feet? How many passes are behind the guy? I mean, watch a game. I mean, honestly, I'll keep track in the next couple of games because I'm telling you, it really is. The word is abysmal, and it's the accurate one because it just kills the momentum. You can't generate anything. You're not generating any speed through the neutral zone because it's behind you and you're reaching behind you. Like it's just the team is off. They just aren't going. And I don't care what their record is. I mean, it's great that they've picked up. What did they pick up on Dallas over the last 10 games? 1 point. They're now 5 points. They're now 5 points back of Dallas, and Dallas has 2 games in hand. So that 1 point is again hollow because right now this is a game you couldn't afford to lose. You really couldn't. I mean, Ottawa's coming in. They haven't been. What were they outscored the last 2 games? 8-1. The last
sizably, something like that. Yeah.
So you've lost your last 2 games, 8-1. You come in here and you stomp the Jets 5-2. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's an embarrassing effort, and it's a 1-1 game after 40 minutes. And somehow I tweeted this from my own account. How are you being outshot in a game you absolutely need the 2 points? How are you being outshot 10-4 in the third period? Like, I don't care if the first period isn't great. Dave Lowry was asked about the slow starts and and all the players have been asked about it. And that's just what this team does. Okay, so let's just accept that that's the premise that they are a slow starting team. Well, the third period is no longer the start of the game. So what is it that you can't get up for that? I mean, if you look at the advanced stats, they were in Ottawa's favor, not heavily, but I was looking at them after the first period. I think it was like high danger was 7-5 in favor of the Senators. Expected goals were at 5-on-5 were higher for Ottawa than was for Winnipeg. So what is it that the Jets aren't doing? Well, we know what it is, but I mean, it's just
Ottawa had 60% of the possession in the third period. To your point, there, Dave.
Yeah, and that to me is.
And high danger was 14-7 at even strength for Ottawa
during the course of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, but to me, the third period is what, if you're going to castigate this Jets team, it's based on that third period, because to me, a 1-1 game, whatever. I mean, I didn't think Forsberg was standing on his head or anything like that, but a 1-1 game.
He was fined. Yeah. And then Forsberg, like I saw your tweet, Dave, about, the tribute to Anton Forsberg, which was funny with the Jets. But look at his save percentage entering the game with something like .916. Like Forsberg's an NHL goalie. He's a backup level NHL goalie, but he's solid, right? Like nobody's confusing him for Scott Wedgwood, right, Drew?
Yeah, I mean that's very clever, Ezzy. I mean, look, the Jets had a couple opportunities to break the tie. It was the Paul Stastny had the breakaway, sort of an in tight breakaway that Forsberg made the save on. Pierre-Luc Dubois had a chance, that Forsberg made the save on. But to your point, he's an NHL goalie. He's going to make saves. He's going to not just say, okay, you can score now. The Jets needed to match the effort, better the effort of the Ottawa Senators in the third period, and they didn't. They just didn't. They weren't even close. And that is, to me, arrogance. That is, well, we're the Winnipeg Jets. We once won 2 playoff series and got to the Western Conference Final 3 years ago. They're the lowly Ottawa Senators. They'll just roll over and die in our presence. Well, GTFO with that stuff. Whoa. It isn't how it works. And the Ottawa
Can we
Senators...
let Dave M handle the F-bombs? Jeff Johnson was liking those F-bombs. So let's leave those to Dave, Drew.
That's why I said GTFO. I didn't actually use the F-bomb, but that's the way the Jets played. That's how they played. They were, they had, with a good third period, they had every opportunity to win this game. They had every opportunity to stay within 3 points of the Dallas Stars, to keep pace with them. They had every opportunity, depending on what happens with Vegas and Nashville tonight. They could have even moved closer to Nashville. Vancouver lost in overtime. Vancouver's now ahead of the Jets. When you put forth that effort in the third period, that's what you get.
Well, and you're 100% right. Like, this wasn't a case where, the Jets played well and, they just didn't get the result, or, Anton Forsberg was really good. Like you mentioned, stop Stastny on the breakaway. There was the one-timer from Ehlers. And, I know I saw a few people talking about, the Colin White power play goal. But, I mean, after the Sens went up 2-1, like, we'll get into the goals. I know you want to get into the goals, Drew. But, I mean, the Jets weren't playing well. That goal, sure, it turns out to be the game-winning goal. And Hellebuck's got to stop that, right? Like, Colin White, between the legs, and that kind of the puck just trickles in. Mm-hmm. Hellebuck's got to stop that. But, I mean, Hellebuck was not the reason. Hellebuck was the only reason the Jets won the last game.
And he was good.
Right. So I don't want to hear that whole, Hellebuck was bad tonight. No. I mean, that was a bad goal. But, like, Tyler Ennis's goal, I mean, that's not Hellebuck's fault. Brady Tkachuk's first goal, that's a beautiful tip. Like, I didn't think I had nothing wrong with, Hellebuck's positioning or anything like that. So one goal of the 5 goals, right? Obviously, not counting the empty netter, right? But, that was not the reason. So what I'm saying here is the Jets didn't play well, and there's really no excuse for that. And, the fact that, Ottawa, like, look, they were fired up. I mean, Tyler Ennis scores the go-ahead goal, and you could tell that, these guys could see, okay, like, there's blood in the water here.
They want to win. They want to win. They're professionals, Dave. The Ottawa Senators want to win. They don't want to lose every game for the rest of the season. They want to feel good about themselves. You think they're happy losing, what'd you say, 8-1, 9-1 cumulatively over the last 2 games? Of course not.
Well, they only had points in, I think, 2 of their last 10 games entering this game.
They want to win. And so the Jets let them win. And so Ottawa said, thank you very much. I mean, it's just, it's just the way they played. And it's not a one-off. We don't go apoplectic.
Thanks, T-Will.
We don't go apoplectic if the Jets, lose a game and they have one bad effort. It's over and over and over and over and over again. Yet there doesn't seem to be any impetus. Well, and there won't be at this point in the season. Yeah. But there doesn't seem to be any impetus to change anything. Just status quo, run it back. We're going to have Craig Button on Saturday's show. I don't know if you guys saw Craig Button's clip.
Oh, I saw it.
On the trade
the back and forth between Craig and Dave Poulin was it was cringeworthy.
Well, I mean, Craig Button was brutally honest with his analysis of this one.
That's why we love having him on, because he brings the heat.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about it extensively on Saturday's show. So there's a little appetizer you can look forward to. Craig's going to join us as well to talk about it. But I mean, when it's obvious to everybody, it's obvious to us, it's obvious to Craig, who does analysis on the Jets games, it's obvious to opponents. You heard what Bruce Cassidy said last week.
Yeah.
About how easy it is to play against the Jets. I mean, these are NHL guys who usually don't say anything, and they're just laughing. They are. And,
well, I mean, Drew, the fact that comment didn't get more play is actually shocking. I mean, an NHL coach essentially.
Can you imagine if that comment was directed towards the Leafs, Dave?
Oh well, I mean, we'd be hearing about it for the next 10 years. But that was my rant on the last show. The lack of coverage. Well, so I'm not going to go on a national rant again today, but I mean, it's not a good statement for this Jets team who thinks that they're going to quote. I mean, how did you stay in the fight tonight? I know some people are listening to the post game while we're obviously doing this post game. They're listening to what is being said maybe from the players, and I don't know who they brought out tonight. So we'll see, but I'm sorry. There's nothing that you can say you liked about that game.
How do you sugarcoat it, Dave? Like, how do we possibly? We've been covering this team since they came over from Atlanta. Like, how do you sugarcoat that? That was crap. It's imagine pain to watch that game. Like and again, we go back to what we talked about. In the first few minutes of the show, entering this game, the Jets won a couple games in a row. What were they, 8-3-1 or something like that in their last 12 games?
Yeah,
right. They're still in the playoffs, even though Dallas wins. You take care of business. You're only 3 points back. Vegas is in all kinds of trouble. You've beat them twice. Vegas, I mean, Mark Stone, I don't even think Mark Stone can come back because he's on LTIR and they have no cap space. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what's going on. Dadonov is back. Like,
they don't have a choice.
Vegas is a mess, right?
Technically, by LTIR rules, if he's good to go, they actually have to bring him off. They can't leave him on there. They can't.
That's true.
He's healthy.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I mean. So if he's healthy, they're going to be effed. They're going to be effed. Although
Vegas is in all types of trouble, right? Like you've got Pacioretty out. You've got apparently Alec Martinez is ready to come back. So they're going to get some guys back. I'm not sure, a guy like Riley Smith, I'm not sure when he's coming back. But the point is, Vegas is in danger of missing the playoffs, right? They still might end up grabbing a wild card spot. But really it's between, the Jets, the Stars, the Golden Knights, and you throw in the Canucks, right? Drew mentioned, they picked up a point tonight but lost in overtime. But the point is, like, the Jets are right in there. So when you have the Ottawa Senators in the first game of a back-to-back, knowing that you've got Columbus coming in tomorrow, and then you've got, Arizona, these are all games that you have to win, and you should win because you're healthy. Even if you don't have Andrew Kopp in the lineup, you've got Mason Appleton and you've got Zach Sanford. So you've got the reinforcements. It's just inexcusable. There wasn't really anything in this game aside from, Josh Morrissey, obviously, scores 10 goals for the first time in his career. I thought Morrissey was, his usual solid self. I don't know how many players in this game on the Jets you could really say had a good game.
Not very many. And that's the problem. It was Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers who spoke today post-game. Dave Lowry spoke for his post-game as well. Dave Lowry said that the Jets did not get enough back pressure or good defensive recovery from their top forwards tonight. Said that if Winnipeg wants its D to jump into the offense, then it needs its forwards to hustle back on D. Kyle Connor, in speaking to the media, and we'll get into the game recap brought to you by our friends at Betway momentarily. Kyle Connor saying that talked a lot about trying to make extra plays in the neutral zone, the Jets were. When they shouldn't have been, getting frustrated at the blue line by the Sens' pressure and not dumping the puck to areas of speed.
Well, I mean, look, there were so many instances in this game where guys had shots at the net and they're looking for the pass. Like there was an instance, I think it was in the first period, Ehlers has the puck in the slot and he looks for a pass. And we talked about it in the last game. The Jets are just firing the puck needlessly. Like if you don't have a play, you don't have to give the possession up. Like I don't know where the coaching book is for the Jets, but it seems like the guys are in the neutral zone And if they see a line change happening or whatever, rather than maintain possession, fire it back into your zone, try and do something with it so you're not giving it up. They're firing it into the opponent's end, and they're just giving up possession and allowing Ottawa to create a reset. And it makes no sense. And it just, you watch this and you're thinking that it just seems so basic. And it just seems like the Jets are they're not doing the simple things. They're not doing the complicated things.
The fundamentals, right?
Yeah, it's just really bad hockey to watch. It really is. And, I don't remember which one of you guys said it, but, it's hard. I mean, I think as it was you, if you're a paying customer and you watch that effort, like, I'm sorry, how much of a 60-minute game have they given in terms of a full effort in this team?
Well, how many games in a row has it been at home? Not including Chicago, but how many games in a row at home has it been that they've gone multiple minutes in the first period without scoring a goal? I mean, if you're not ready to play, getting a shot. I mean, if you're not ready to play the game, because that, not getting a shot for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 12 minutes, that tells me you're not ready to play when the puck's dropped. That's got to be on the coaches. It's got to be on the leadership, right? I don't understand it. How are you not ready? It's consistent. It's now
that's just it, Drew, right? Like, it's not like we've seen that once or twice this year.
It's a pattern.
We've seen that multiple times. Like, I don't know how many times, 10, 15, 20. Like, there's only a few games left here, guys. Like, it's towards the end of the season. Like, the Jets are running out of room here, and 5 points back, you're still in it, but the games in hand continue to haunt the Jets, right? Mm-hmm. And Dallas doesn't have the hardest schedule. And, the Jets, the easier part of the Jets schedule is going to happen over the next couple of weeks with teams like Arizona, and then you've got Buffalo next week, right? And then obviously Toronto in the second half of the back-to-back. But I agree with Dave. Like, it's painful to watch at times, and it's really tough to steal a line from Drew here. It's tough to really know what the game plan was tonight, because you weren't setting the tone, you weren't dictating the pace. Mm-hmm. Like, you saw Nikolai Ehlers had a few good rushes using his speed, and he had some quality chances. I forget who set up Ehlers on a nice one-timer. It was probably Scheifele or Wheeler, obviously, his two team line mates. But there just wasn't enough of it. How many consecutive good shifts have you seen from this team? It's just not good enough at this point in the season. It's really inexplicable that, the Jets put out that type of effort. The first period was okay. Like we talked about, the first 5 or 6 minutes without a shot, you don't like to see that. But after Morrissey scored, you could tell that, the Jets got a boost. And then you saw some good shifts. You saw some pressure in the zone. The second period was unwatchable as far as I was concerned. And the third period wasn't much better. The Jets were pretty badly outplayed in the third period, I would say. Even setting the goals aside. So the fact that you're down 4-1 at home in a must-win game to one of the worst teams in the league is just one of those head scratchers. You're thinking to yourself, again, it goes back to what I said. You came into this game having won a couple of games in a row, but you really didn't deserve to win that game, aside from Hellebuck standing on his head. And this game, is just. I don't have any words for that shit that we just watched.
Ezzy, I'll just quickly say this. We're almost 25 minutes into a post-game show, and we haven't actually broken down the goals. That goes to tell you what it's all about. We haven't even started doing our Betway segment because we've been so fired up and people are getting going in the chat, and it's been a good show for us, I think. I think people are enjoying our effort. I think our attention to detail has been pretty solid. But I just think it's funny that
I love being able to say shit, by the way, now that we're not on TSN 1290. Our kids are in bed, Drew. They're not going to listen to this. I mean, I guess it's on YouTube, but we'll just have to make sure they don't watch it.
My kids have no interest in watching me on YouTube. I can assure you about that. And I also have a tendency to curse in front of my kids, and they know that those are daddy and mummy words, and they're not their words just yet. Give them a couple more years.
Earmuffs, Ruben. Earmuffs, Sam.
Exactly. Okay, let's get into the Betway game recap, brought to you by Betway, the sports betting app that backs you to trust your hockey instincts. Are you an NHL expert? You think you know who's going to win this week's games featuring Canadian teams? If that sounds like you, check out the You Lead, You Win offer from Betway. Betway will pay you out as a winner If a team leads 2-0 in any match involving a Canadian team, $20 max stake. So head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. Starts
and
off
Drew,
well.
that read was that read came out before we knew the result of this game involving two Canadian teams, right? Unbelievable.
That's right. Exactly right. In any event, that's funny. As he said, the Jets, it started off well. They opened the scoring at the 8:38 mark. Josh Morrissey puts the puck on net. Good things happen when you put the puck on net. Mm-hmm. Nothing pretty about this. He's trying to go cross ice to Wheeler. It looked like it deflected in off Nick Holden. It doesn't. It actually deflects in off of off of Forsberg, off of Anton Forsberg. He manages to sort of drag the puck into his own net. It's sort of a weird goal, but Morrissey gets it. It's his 10th assist to Scheifele and Wheeler. 1-0 for the Winnipeg Jets at that point in time, 8.5 minutes into the game. And, the Jets have been pretty good as of late when they score the first goal. But little did we know, it was all downhill from there.
Absolutely. And, if we could just back up, the sequence before that, if you remember, it was Nick Holden. Dylan DeMello picked off that pass. I think it was Alex Formenton who flew the zone.
Yeah.
And Nick Holden just put up a horrible pass, and Dylan DeMello picked it off and had a shot on net. And then, Scheifele does some nice work there. Wheeler does some nice work there along the boards, gets it to Scheifele. Nice little pass. He sees that, Morrissey's coming in along the boards to the left of him. And Morrissey, who's playing really well, especially right now, he's had a good year overall.
Yeah.
And it looked like it might have gone off of, Nick Holden's skate. It was clear Wheeler didn't touch it there. You could tell by his reaction, but you're right. I mean, it was just, some nice work in the offensive zone, but it goes back to what we said before, guys. Like, how many shifts like that did you see where the Jets had the puck in the send zone for 15 seconds, 25 seconds, whatever? You saw it on that particular case, and you saw it a little bit, towards the end of the first period, but you just didn't see enough of it. But in that case, it was a nice individual effort. But Dylan DeMello doesn't get an assist there, Dave, but he really should.
You're on mute, Manuk.
Sorry, I'm trying to do work. Holy Donna. No, I agree with Ezzy. I thought DeMello, he did do some nice work in that play, and you're right, he doesn't get an assist. I mean, Wheeler gets his 40th assist of the season. I mean, it is one thing that he still does, well. He still can pick up the points in that regard. Is it time for him to be in more of a reduced role? I mean, I would tend to agree that I think he should be probably, falling down to that maybe third line. But, Paul Stastny had some interesting comments. We'll maybe talk about that after the recap. But I thought his comments were interesting in terms of playing center versus being on the wing. That to me was quite a tell from Paul Stastny. And he was asked about his future. He didn't really make any sort of announcement there. And I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You're not going to want to give away your leverage in that regard. But I thought that was an interesting one. And I thought, hey, here's a crazy notion. Could you imagine having a third line center who's got 17 goals? It's not bad. Whether he'd have 17 goals as a third line center is another question. But regardless, the fact is Wheeler has been able to contribute a lot throughout the course of his career. I mean, that's the 7th time now in his career he's had at least 40 assists. So, he still can pass the puck. Like I said, I think that he needs more of a reduced role, my opinion, but I still think that you can use him effectively. I think he could be effective, and I actually think he'd be a better player with less minutes because I think he'd have more in the tank. But again, that's an aside. It's not part of the recap. We'll talk about that probably more towards the end of the season. Anywho, so it was a nice, and Josh Morrissey, we've seen his offensive mojo return a little bit this season. I mean, him up to 10 goals, obviously well past his career high, but hitting double digits for the first time is good because the Jets need that. They need someone from the back end to be able to put that puck in the back of the net.
Brady Tkachuk ties the game 6 minutes later. It's his 21st of the year, assist to Artem Zub and Josh Norris. The great set play by the Senators. They win the faceoff. Then Zub gets the puck at the point. He puts it on net. Brady Tkachuk with a very nifty tip, and it's 1-1 after 20 minutes. Brady Tkachuk is a very good player. I was very impressed with Artem Zub today. I thought he was physical. I thought he was a good force for the Senators on their blue line throughout the course of their game tonight. Thought that he brought a lot to the table, physically, that the Jets just weren't able to match, and certainly didn't bring anything similar on their end, Ezzy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm glad you brought that up because Zub is one of those defensemen I didn't really know much about last year. I remember when we were previewing the Jets Senators, when we were on TSN 1290.
They played 10 times last year during the.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Times.
Early on,
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about him because, of course, he wasn't drafted and he played in the KHL. And we don't watch the KHL. We don't know a lot about him, but you're right. He's big. He's 6'1", 6'2". And he's a guy that has a lot of strengths to his game. There was a play that I remember. I forget if it was the first period or the second period. Dubois tried to go around him, and Zub just made a really nice play. But yeah, in this particular case, it was Colin White who wins the faceoff, not the former New Jersey Devils Stanley Cup champion, but the Ottawa Senator here.
He's not back. He's not back playing yet.
No, he's not a stay-at-home defenseman. But yeah, it's just a set play and nice point shot from Zub and a beautiful tip. And we talked about it earlier, but I mean, a tip like that is very tough for any goaltender to stop. So that was just a well-executed goal from Zub and Tkachuk. And obviously the Senators tied it up at that point, and it remained tied for quite some time.
It certainly did. And we, the less said, the better, I would say, Dave, about that second period, because it was just awful all around.
But, bad hockey.
Yeah, bad hockey, basically. Exactly right. Bad hockey.
Low event.
Yeah,
garbage.
Low event, which is, there's just, both teams were just content to not let anything happen in that second period and have 20 minutes decide it. And I tweeted this in the third period. I said, the Jets seem, as the Senators were, this is before when it was still 1-1, the Senators were taking it to the Jets, certainly in that third period. Shots on goal in the third period were 14-6. And I tweeted that the Jets seemed content to try and get the game to overtime, not somehow forgetting that their overtime record is also horrendous. Well, they didn't get the game to overtime. Not by a long shot did they get the game to overtime. Tyler Ennis at the 12:25 mark of the third period. It's his 8th of the year. Assist to the newly acquired Matthew Joseph and Chris Tierney. Logan Stanley has to know better in this instance. There's no play there at the blue line. He tries to jump to keep the puck in the zone, which tells you how high the flip must have been if it got over a jumping and elevated Logan Stanley. And boom, bad decision. And it's in the back of the Jets net on the 2-on-1, Dave.
It made no sense. As and I are watching here at my place, and I just was like, what is he doing? This isn't basketball. It's not a jump ball. And all you do, if you don't, think about it from a conventional way of looking at it. If you don't make that play, you are completely taking yourself out of the ability to get back because you have no speed, you have no momentum. You've used it all to go lateral, right? So you've just used everything you can to get up, and now, all what goes up must come down. So he's come down, but the puck is way behind him, and the momentum of all the Senators is going towards the Jets net. So you've just taken yourself out of the play. It made no sense. It's just such a low percentage opportunity for Stanley, and he's got to have better sense there. And it just isn't a good reflection on him to do something like that. I'm sorry. I don't know what the numbers would suggest, but I just don't see how you can justify that type of play in a game that is it's a game that you can't afford to lose.
There's 7 minutes left in the game at that point.
Let's say 7:50 because they scored with 7:35. So it's probably less actually. It's probably about 7:42 or something like that when he makes that jump.
I think it was actually 7:42.
That's exactly what Dave just said.
Sorry, 7. I was trying to make a joke.
I know.
I understood what you're trying to do, but I'm but you just used the time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, Ezzy, mute yourself right now, Big Daddy. The point is, it's just a questionable decision, and you just cannot afford. And look, the defense made questionable decisions throughout the course of that third period. It wasn't just Logan Stanley, but that's an egregious one because it ends up in the back of your net, and it kind of starts. It starts breaks the camel's. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back because, or the floodgates open, or whatever you want to say. But the reality is, that's what kind of spurred this thing on. It gave the Senators all sorts of life. Because now it was a slog, right? Like you talked about it, Drew. That second period was just painful. You're watching it and you're just like, oh my God.
Nothing happened.
No, it's just nothing. And so
literally nothing happened in that second period that I can remember.
No, I agree.
And I just wanted to throw in one thing, Drew, on that, to further what Dave said on that goal. Logan Stanley, because he's 6'7", and he can skate. We've talked about that before. It might not look like he's fast. He's fast.
He makes up a lot of ground because
this
he's
comes
so
from
big.
a fat, soon-to-be 40-year-old who's very slow on his skates. Okay, so he is really fast.
Yeah,
and he almost gets back, especially with his reach. I just watched the replay. Like Stanley almost gets his stick on the crossing pass to Ennis. I forgot Tyler Ennis was in the NHL, by the way. I mean, Tyler Ennis was back in the day was a pretty good player for the Buffalo Sabres. But like, did anybody notice Tyler Ennis before that play? Like, he's obviously, no longer a top 6 forward, even on the lowly Senators. But just wanted to throw that in there, that even though, as you mentioned, Stanley's momentum was obviously going in the wrong direction there, he still ends up getting back, Dave, and almost breaking up that pass. But
I know, but it
wasn't
just
a good goal.
It's just a bad decision, and there's no excuse for it. He's been in the NHL and the AHL long enough. He's been a pro long enough to know that you just can't afford to do that. And when your team is, let's use a Drewism, when your team is fragile and you're not playing particularly well, it's just you're putting yourself into a bad position. And it's not sound defensive hockey, which is what the team. And again, this is not just on Logan Stanley. There's a lot of guys that you can blame for that in this game. It just wasn't sound defensive hockey from this.
It's high risk, no reward. What's the
best? The reward is that in theory he could bring the puck down and fire it. Especially if guys are if guys are pulling the Jets move and they're flying the zone. But I mean, look, I know I hate it, Drew. I hate it. I don't like it.
By the way, high risk, no reward was the slogan at my wedding, if you guys remember.
That was funny, Ezzy. In any event, it's 2-1.
I know Kevin Farley, Drew, but
yeah, Kevin Farley coming to Rumors. Tickets available, rumorscomedyclub.com. The Sens make it 3-1. Just over 2 minutes later, 2 minutes and 16 seconds later, with Brendan Dillon in the penalty box with the only penalty that was called all night, which should tell you just how bad this game was. Colin White gets his second of the year, assist to Tim Stützle and Eric Brandstrom. And our buddy Mike McIntyre, who's actually going to join us on Saturday's show as well, had a really good tweet about it. He said that Colin White, walks out there, and if he had a glass of water that was filled to the brim, he would not have spilled a drop of it, because absolutely nobody on the Winnipeg Jets put a body on him. And you may not like how the goal goes in, and I understand that because it sort of looks ugly. But it's, it's just easy to get in front of. It's easy like Sunday morning in front of the Winnipeg Jets net yet again.
Yeah, and we talked about it, like Hellebuck, that he just doesn't get enough of it there. Like that's a save that he probably should make. Yeah, but it wasn't good defensive coverage. But it goes back to what I said before that, like on Brendan Dillon's penalty. Mm-hmm. Like, the Jets were, now on their heels, and the Senators had all their momentum there. And we know that, the Sens offensively are one of the weaker teams in the league. But again, you give them a little time and space. A guy like Colin White, if you don't know a lot about him, he's a talented player.
Sure.
And yeah, that was just an ugly goal. And that was the killer. That was the killer goal. If you're down 1 goal, you can come back on the Senators, no problem. Well, but you're down 2 goals.
Yes.
now it's going to be a little tougher, especially Forsberg was playing pretty well. But yeah, that was just all around. That was a stinker.
And then you saw absolutely, 59 seconds later, it becomes 4-1 for the Ottawa Senators as Connor Brown gets his 10th of the year, another assist to Stützle. And talking about another guy who you probably didn't know was still in the league, Michael Del Zotto gets the secondary assist on that one. And it's just gone from bad to worse to holy hell, it's bad now for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, you're watching that. Sorry, David. I'm just going to say you're watching that. It's 4-1, and you're thinking like, what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah.
Right? Like what?
A team that can't score has just scored 3 goals, has just scored 4 goals, 3 goals in the span of 3 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yeah, and Morrissey turns the puck over there. Even though Morrissey turned the puck over there, I'm not going to knock on it. Maybe just because I'm a really big fan of Morrissey, but it starts with that turnover. And again, like the defensive coverage, like where was a body check there? Like just somebody hit somebody, do something. It was just so easy. What was that, a 4-on-1? It was at least a 3-on-1 for the Senators. But just at that point, I almost just tuned out, and it became a joke at that point. Like the fact that Ottawa was up 4-1 late in the third period is just not something I saw happening before this game started.
I would concur with that. It was an awful third period for the Jets. They get one closer, make it 4-2. The only reason that we're really highlighting it is it's Kyle Connor's 40th of the year, and he achieved 40 assists in the game on Tuesday night against the Vegas Golden Knights. So for the first time in Winnipeg Jets 2.0 history, they have a 40-goal, 40-assist man. So kudos to Kyle Connor. He certainly has not been the problem on this team this year, Dave.
No, and in fact, he's probably the only. If this is what the Jets fans are in for the remainder of the season, probably the only thing that they're going to have to cheer is watching him try and achieve 50 and 50, which the way he's playing seems very possible, of course, because he seems to find the back of the net on every given night. So, I mean, look, Kyle Connor's had a remarkable season, and I mean that goal was a vintage Kyle Connor He has a nose for the net, right? And he has a great shot. So he finds it, and there's not a lot to cheer at that point because it's just made it 4-2, but it's too little too late. And you just sense, I mean, we were of course at my place, as you and I were, so you're not in the building, but we saw Scotty Billick tweet that fans were already leaving. When it's 4-1, fans are just
out the door.
So I mean, it's like, it's hard, right? It's hard for these guys to, for people to get excited. And so, I mean, folks want to cheer that because that's a huge accomplishment. And I don't want to minimize it. Like, for a guy to be able to get 40 goals in a season is remarkable. It's only the second time we've ever seen that in 11 years of hockey here in Winnipeg since the Jets have returned, right? Patrik Laine, obviously in his rookie season, hitting 44 goals. And now Kyle Connor is the second one to hit it with 40. So it's a remarkable achievement. It just feels that it's, and I'm sure he was asked about it in the post game, but he's not a kind of guy who's going to talk about individual achievements anyways. And how do you get excited individually when your team collectively played that poorly? It's hard to. So, I mean, I'm sure he'll be happy for that individual success, but especially in light of the way the team played and how impactful this is on the standings, because as he said, and it bears repeating, you are now 5 points back of Dallas, who have 2 games in hand on you. The climb is going to be incredibly difficult. It is incredibly steep for this Jets team, and you are in that weak-ish part of it, right? So, I mean, you want to celebrate some victories. That's the Kyle Connor 40th goal is that, and you're right, Drew, like 40 assists. And I mentioned this after the game against Vegas. He doesn't get enough credit for how good a passer he is, because he really is a phenomenal passer. So it is something that definitely merits
conversation,
probably on Saturday when you can look back and you're not thinking about the stench of this loss. But it's too little too late at that point in the game, I thought.
And I don't know, just going to quickly say, Drew, I'm not sure if you guys were thinking about this or anybody, watching us now, in the chat or listening on the podcast, but there's a little bit of synchronicity there with, Brady Tkachuk's dad, having scored 50 goals, of course, in the Jets 1.0 last season, right?
Yeah.
So you wonder if that's maybe a little foreshadowing, if you believe that type of stuff, or maybe I'm just, maybe I'm just out to lunch here, but there's a good chance Connor will score 50 goals, right? Like, he's got a really good chance. We don't know if he will. He's going to have to, score at a good pace, but he's been scoring on a really good pace, right? So you're right, Dave, especially if the Jets end up, going 7 points back or 8 points back of that second wild card spot. That's really going to be what Jets fans are going to be watching. It's going to be exciting, and I hope he gets it. Kyle Connor is a great hockey player, and he probably doesn't deserve. Probably he does deserve, more league-wide, hockey-wide, whatever you want to call it, recognition, because he's one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. He's right up there with Austin Matthews and Alex Ovechkin, right? David Pastrnak. He might not be number one. He might not be at the top of the hill, but he's right up there with the best goal scorers in the world. So you're right. This game was crap, but, a great personal milestone for Connor.
Well, as he quickly, Drew, sorry, 2 things. Number one, one of the comments in our last show was how he probably deserves Lady Byng recognition for the fact that he gets no penalty minutes and he does what he does on a nightly basis and he plays as much as he does. So that was an interesting one. The other thing I was thinking about, and, you and I were in Sunrise when Kyle Connor was drafted, but, if you did a redraft right now of the 2015 entry draft, is Kyle Connor what? Behind McDavid and maybe Rantanen? Maybe Aho. I mean, would you take Eichel before Connor? I mean, Connor's at least a top 5 pick. At least
I was going to say, Dave, at the very least, top 5, and yeah, he might even be.
I'll tell you what.
I mean, is Jack Eichel that far ahead of Kyle Connor at this point in his career?
Well,
he didn't look that great last time the Jets played the Golden Knights.
From a goal scoring perspective, Kyle Connor's got the 3rd most goals from the 2015 draft.
In a redraft, the Bruins wouldn't have had the opportunity to miss out on him 3 different times. That much I can tell you for sure.
Fair point.
5-2 final, Ottawa over the Winnipeg Jets tonight. The game recap brought to you by our friends at Betway. Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. When we come back, we're going to give away a toque. Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. Ezzy's going to get the winner ready there. We'll preview the Line A return game tomorrow night against the Jets. The Jets right back up in action so they can't lick their wounds for too long. Look a little bit at the out-of-town scoreboard, and I'm sure Dave M will have some Moose chatter as well. Don't go anywhere. It's a Thursday night. The Jets lost, but you're winning because you're with the Illegal Curve. Stay with us. We'll be right back on the Illegal Curve postgame show.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boys, finding parking on game day shouldn't take longer than the Minute Minute.
It shouldn't take longer than 1 minute?
Yeah, less than a minute? I spend at least 20 driving around to find street parking, or if I'm in a rush to the game, I'll shovel out 20 at a parkade.
You're both doing it wrong. There's this app called Grid Park. It lets you find and pre-book your parking spot on game days, and you can reserve your spot up to 1 month in advance. And guess how much you'll pay?
Tell me, Dave. You know I love a deal.
Ezzy, $5.
Come on, $5?
Yeah, and it's just 2 blocks from the arena.
The Grid Park app?
Yep, spelled GRYD Park. And you know what else?
There's more?
Our listeners get their first park free with the code FIRSTPARK.
Wow, so they just download the Grid Park app and pre-book their next game day spot for free?
Yeah, you got it, Ez. Promo code FIRSTPARK. Only on the Grid Park app.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com. For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Welcome back. Thursday night, it's the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. I wanted to say one more thing about tonight's game before we can move ahead to tomorrow night's game. Mark Scheifele ended up with 2 assists tonight. So anybody who didn't watch the game might say, hey, 2 assists, adding to his point total. Good job. Mark Scheifele, from my perspective, was completely invisible tonight. He had 1 shot on goal. I thought that he was just out there for, as I said to you guys before the show started, I've gone on more rigorous skates at the Forks with my kids than I thought Mark Scheifele did for the most part in tonight's game.
And you for sure had the mini donuts afterwards.
I think I was probably eating the mini donuts while I was skating, Ezzy. But I mean, you know, look, I'm of the opinion Mark Scheifele has not been the same player all year, and I think it's tied to the hit that he laid on Jake Evans. And you know, I don't expect him to confirm that or deny that or say anything to that effect. But tonight was emblematic of Mark Scheifele getting points, but Mark Scheifele being an absolute shell of himself when it comes to effectiveness, game in and game out, and really being a driver for the Winnipeg Jets.
A driver and a leader.
Yeah, certainly.
Right? Like, and you know, I hate to say it. I think we all hate to say it. I think Jets fans hate to say it. This is not the same Scheifele that we've come accustomed to, right? Like at the beginning of the year, what was all the talk about, right? It was all about, you know, is Scheifele going to be able to crack Team Canada at the Winter Olympics in Beijing? We all know that the NHL didn't go to the Olympics, so it's a moot point, but that was the talk, right? A couple months into the season, you know, we were talking about, does Pierre-Luc Dubois have a better chance at cracking Canada's Olympic roster, right? Like, I'm not joking. Like, Pierre-Luc Dubois has, I think, overall has surpassed Scheifele in terms of, you know, his impact on this Jets team. And I agree with you, Drew. Like, I mean, Scheifele has so much offensive talent. He's a top 20 offensively skilled player, I would say, in the NHL. Like, he really is. And, you know, it just doesn't match up with, you know, his performance on certain nights. So yeah, he gets his points, and you know, he on a nightly basis, he usually, you know, either gets an assist or a goal, or sometimes he gets 3 or 4 points. But you're right, tonight, he was invisible for the most part.
Exactly. Just wanted to get that on the record. Wanted to say that because I forgot to say it before. So the out of town scoreboard has not been favorable to the Winnipeg Jets tonight, as we've outlined. Minnesota Wild, they defeat the Vancouver Canucks in overtime. Canucks move a point up on the Winnipeg Jets. The Dallas Stars, they won in a shootout. They were outshot. What was the final shot total in that game? I think it was something like, you know, 44-15. They were outshot.
I think they had even more, Drew, because I tweeted it out. I think Wedgwood ended up having like 47 saves. Regardless, it was something ridiculous. Like they had Carolina had something like 49 or 50 shots.
A huge one-sided effort in 47-15. The Stars were outshot 18-4 in the first period and 16-5 in the second. Yet they managed to win the game in the shootout, which tells you that that's getting goalied, by the way, by Scott Wedgwood. He definitely goalied. Yeah, no, it's Wedgwood.
He's Wedgewall now, Drew. It's no longer Wedgwood. His legal name is Scott Wedgewall.
He actually had it changed.
Yeah,
he had to change to Wedgewall. In any event, it was not a good night for the Winnipeg Jets on the out-of-town scoreboard. A game still going on. The Vegas Golden Knights. Isn't this ironic? Evgeny Dadonov scored for the Golden Knights after they've been trying to trade him. He did. He scored the 3rd goal of the game for the Golden Knights, of course. And
Mr. No Trade Clause, right?
Oh, Mr. No Trade Clause. Who has a no trade clause to Anaheim? Isn't it odd?
It's funny you mentioned that, Drew, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I don't think I've ever heard of Anaheim being on it. It's all like Anaheim is at the top of the list where people want to go. That's why Ryan Getzlaf hasn't been traded. He doesn't want to go anywhere.
My guess is he didn't want to go to a team that he's a competitive guy, wants to win. Of course,
maybe he likes the cold weather. He wants to stay in Canada.
He only has he only has 10 teams. It's a modified no trade.
No, I know.
I'd be surprised that of the 10 you'd put Anaheim on there, but what do I know? In any event, it's 4-1.
He wants to come to Winnipeg. Apparently, he heard it was the Paris of the Prairies.
Yeah, it's 4-1. The Golden Knights lead the Predators right now. Dadonov scored the 3rd goal. The Golden Knights out shooting the Predators 32-13 more than halfway through the game. So apparently the Predators taking a bit of a page out of the Winnipeg Jets book. The Oilers winning 5-2. That doesn't really have an impact on the Jets on the out-of-town scoreboard. But there you go. So the Jets, with tonight's loss, fall even further behind, 5 points behind the Dallas Stars now. And when Vegas wins their game against the Predators, which looks more than likely that's going to happen, the Golden Knights will move 4 points up on the Jets. So the playoff chances getting diminishing rapidly throughout the course of the game. Ezzy, Tough Duck, hardest hitting comment. Who's it going to tonight?
We're going to give it to Noah Lafort. I sent it to you there in the private chat, Drew. Noah had some good comments throughout the post-game show on this one. He says, according to Money Pucks, expected goals percentage, that's XG percentage, our top 2 players were Sanford and Appleton. Our third best player was Stastny. I thought we talked about Stastny had a good chance on that breakaway or partial breakaway that Anton Forsberg stopped. Our best line was the third line. And the reason why I think that deserves the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment is because in a game like this, you know, you expect Connor Dubois, Svechnikov to be their usual good self, and they had some good shifts and a few good chances, but you know, you definitely expected Ehlers, Scheifele, and Wheeler to be better. So the fact that, you know, Mason Appleton and Zach Sanford, the 2 newest Jets, even though Appleton, of course, was drafted by the Jets and played a bunch of years with the Jets. I mean, to me, that's just it's baffling. It really is baffling that the Jets didn't get a better effort and more results from their top 6 forwards. So Noah, send me an email, Ezra@illegalcurve.com, and we will ship out, Tough Duck will ship out a toque to you. You can also slide into my DMs at ICEZEG on Twitter. Send me a DM with your mailing address. So yeah, like that comment, and we're going to ship out a Tough Duck toque to you.
There you go. Congratulations to Noah, the winner of tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. If you didn't win tonight, well, you have another opportunity tomorrow night, as Ezzy and I will be back with the post-game show tomorrow night after the Jets and the Blue Jackets. I expect 2 things. Line A to get a raucous ovation tomorrow night, which might remind True North that they lost more than just a player on the ice. They lost somebody who almost is a selling feature to the team and can sell tickets just by virtue of being the kind of player that he is. And he's been on fire as of late for the Blue Jackets. And I also expect, too, he's always been a bit of a showman. I expect him to put on a show tomorrow night. And won't that be ironic and won't that be funny, depending on the outcome of the game, depending on what Patrick Laine puts forth tomorrow night, guys?
Yeah, I think he's going to get a huge ovation. I agree with you, Drew. He was maybe the most popular Jet 2.0 aside from Buff. I still think Buff is in his own category. I mean, some people might, argue with me. And there's been a lot of fan favorites, but Buff was in a class of his own, right?
Is no question about
Yeah.
one.
I would say so, but Laine is right up
sure.
there. And, I think the trade, I got to mention this, though, to play devil's advocate. I'm not just a Devils fan. I can also be a devil's advocate. The trade has worked out pretty well for the Jets guys. Like I would, if I was to pick a winner thus far, it would be probably the Jets, just by a little bit. I realize, Laine missed some games and he's had a pretty good year. I think he has 22 goals or something like that, right? But I mean, we're not going to really know the true winner of this trade for another probably 3, 4, 5 years, right, guys? But it'll be lots of fun, to watch. It's going to be also kind of weird to watch Laine in a Blue Jackets uniform, at Canada Life Center, right? But I mean, this game, it's a must-win game. But unfortunately, you wonder if it's too little, too late, and the Jets just aren't going to be able to really get back into this, because there just aren't enough games to make up 5 points and still have 2 games in hand for the Stars. I think is just going to be really hard. Vegas won again, so you're still 4 points back. But hey, it should be exciting. It's always exciting, when you have Friday night hockey in Winnipeg, and hopefully the Jets win, and maybe Laine gets a goal, even though the Jets win.
Well, we shall see tomorrow night. Before we wrap up tonight's post-game show, you know what you've all been waiting for. It's the one, it's the only.
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minuk Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Well, just like the Minuk Moose Minute has to eventually come to an end, so too.
Sometimes I'm not so sure about that, Dave. I got to be honest.
I was going to say, I don't know how long it takes for it to come to an end, but so too did the Manitoba Moose 9-game point streak. They were 7-0, 1-1 in 9 games. They hadn't had a regulation loss since February 26th, coincidentally my sister's birthday. However, that all came to a crashing halt yesterday in Rockford. They had a decent game. Morgan Barron, who they obviously got from the New York Rangers in the Andrew Kopp trade, he was playing for them. He had 3 shots in the game, didn't end up with any points, but they heavily outshot Rockford. I think I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like 40-16 for the Moose in that game. But they just couldn't gain any momentum. Down 1-0, tied it up early in the second, and then the Ice Hawks scored 2 more, including a power play goal. They only had 1 power play. They scored. The Moose PK hasn't been great. They were really good. They had a top 3 PK for the longest time, but yesterday in the last little bit, it's fallen a little bit off. They made it 3-2. They made it interesting. Mikey Esimod, he's been very good. He got his 13th goal of the season to make it 3-2 early in the third. But then Lucas Reichel, he scored his 20th, and then Rockford scored another one. It was an empty netter to make it. I think it was 5-2 at that point, and then or 5-1. Sorry, no, 5-2 at that point, and then they got one more goal late. Nicholas Jones, and so that was the second of the game. That made it 5-3, but the Moose couldn't come back. So their win streak came to an end, but they're still, they're still extremely well positioned. And it was funny because I was doing an exercise the other day, just trying to look at the
actual exercise, right? I just want to make sure,
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I guess if you consider like writing,
you might pull something. You're better off staying perfectly stationary at all times.
I did.
Dave M got a little Peloton workout.
I didn't exert myself or overexert myself, Drew. That's true, but I definitely took a look at the Moose. We don't have an update on Declan Chisholm. He got that slew foot the other day, and so there's no update. He hasn't played. Leon Gavanka, he was back playing, but although they had him on his offside, that was unusual. I don't actually remember him playing on his left side, but I guess it's a function of some injuries. So they went 11-7 yesterday, and we'll see what happens in terms of the health. They play Chicago, who's the division leader, one of the best teams in the AHL. So that'll be a good game tomorrow night. It'll be a doubleheader. Moose at 7, Jets at 7, and then they finish it off by going back to Rockford and finishing off that 7-game road trip. So it's been. I mean, look, they're still very happy with it, right? They've won a number of games, and they're well positioned, and they're going to go deep. I mean, like I said, I was doing Greg Morellis, who's I think 4th or 5th. He's been injured, but he's 4th or 5th in scoring, and I didn't even find a spot for him in the lineup right now based on all the players that they've got. So this Moose team, their weakness, we don't know what the story with Mikkel Burden is. He's hasn't played in quite some time, and Mark Morrison at the end of February talked about not wanting to overtax him, which I thought was curious, and then turned he didn't play, didn't come on it doesn't appear that he's on the road trip. So his status is definitely up in the air, and we'll see what happens. That could be the only question for Mark for the Moose right now, and whether they're able to go deep is their goaltending. Arvid Holm, he's adjusting to the pro game. I think he's had some stretches. He's had some games and some goals against it he wouldn't love. I think he's got some talent. I think it'll serve. I think this is all serving him well. I don't think there's any rush for him anyways. And they've got some good guys who are in the CHL who could come up and play if they need them. So it'll be interesting to see, but the Moose are still a very good team and still very well positioned. I mean, Daniel Fink tweeted it out today. It was funny because I was talking about that with Mark Morrison about how I don't think they even knew that. I honestly don't think they even knew
how their scoring is.
Well, because I looked and I was like, because I was just curious because I was looking at Chicago, and Chicago's at the time when I looked, the Moose top scorer had 26 points and Chicago's top scorer had 66. Like it's not even in the same stratosphere. And so, you go and you realize, and then I was like, well, I wonder where they actually factors. And then I think maybe it was 29 points, and it was like 123rd or something like that at the time. And now it's like they don't even have a top scorer on the 127th. So anyways, but they have a lot of guys who have scored. They have it's balanced. And that's what I think you need in the AHL, especially because like I said, in 17-18, when the player who we're also going to see tomorrow, Jack Roslovic, got recalled when Mark Scheifele went down. I remember where it was. I was in Huatuco, Mexico. I was updating illegal curve from the beach, still had it up, no problem. But when they lost Hutchinson and they lost Jack Roslovic, the Moose became more of a 500 team as opposed to the 700 team they were. And this Moose team, which is I think they're about a 650 team. They're all probably they don't really falter that much. So it'll be an interesting end of the homestand. And they come back and they play, I think, Milwaukee 3 times and a couple other games. I think Toronto as well. So it should be fun to the end. We'll have tickets to give away. So stay tuned. Make sure you pay attention to that Manuk Moose Minute because we'll have more Moose tickets to give away to you.
There you
and
go.
Guys, if I could, sorry, I was just going to say, if I could bring it full circle here, Dave, you just mentioned the top scorer on the Chicago Wolves, which I'm not sure. Hold on. Andrew Poturalski has 79 points.
Yeah.
But number 2, I'm going to bring this full circle here. Former New Jersey Devil, Stefan Noesen. He was a first-round pick of the Ottawa Senators back in the day. Of course, the Jets just played. So, tying that into the American Hockey League and the Chicago Wolves, just wanted to get that in there. Another thing I wanted to throw in there, I'm not sure if you guys talked about this on Tuesday when you were breaking down all the trades, but you mentioned Morgan Barron, who was I think a really good pickup for the Jets. I mean, we know the draft picks were a big part of it, but kind of funny too that his brother was traded on the same day, right? Justin Barron,
talked about it on Tuesday,
who's younger and no relation to former St. Louis Blues defenseman Marie Barron.
There you go. Way to bring it all around full circle there, Mr. Ginsburg. That's it for this Thursday night edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Want to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors because they make this show, they make the Saturday show, they make the website a possibility. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Bernstein's Deli, Betway, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, and Grid Park support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. We'll be back again tomorrow night, right around 9:45 p.m. for another edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show, talking about the Jets and the Blue Jackets, as it is a back-to-back situation. Saturday morning's Illegal Curve Hockey show comes your way at 9 a.m. Before you leave for tonight, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, leave us some comments, rate us, review us, let us know what you like about the show. Tell your friends, tell your family. The best place to be after each and every Jets game, and again on Saturday mornings, is the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. For Dave Manuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Thanks for joining us until tomorrow night at 9:45. This has been the Illegal Curve post-game show.